In the previous video, we talked about the 1920s, focusing on the Harlem Renaissance and artists that came out of that era. Now, let's talk about the 1930s with the rise of gospel, the Great Depression, and also racial segregation. Deeply rooted in Negro spirituals in the African American church, gospel music took form in the 1920s but really emerged in the 1930s. With the help of this guy, Thomas A. Dorsey, Mr. Dorsey is known as the father of gospel music, and he did so many contributions to gospel music, such as organizing choirs, founding emerging gospel artists such as Sally Martin and Mahalia Jackson. He was also the arranger for Ma Rainey, who's mentioned in the previous video. However, it was this guy, Charles Albert Tindley, who's the grandfather of gospel music. In fact, Dorsey actually heard Tindley's hymns at a convention, and that's what inspired Dorsey to go ahead and start writing religious music. The Great Depression was about an economic crash, a complete, utter disaster basically, for like a decade spanning from 1929 to about 1939. This led to high rates of unemployment, poverty, and this was all done under President Hoover's administration, in which he really didn't want to do shit about it. And somehow, someway, during all of this, people still had the nerve to be racist. There was segregation of redlining, housing policies, and a bunch of other shit. But let's get into the music. While this song is about a hoe and doing drugs, Cab Calloway is one of the most influential artists of this time. During the 1930s, between the 1940s, his music career was really popping because he was the first African American musician to sell over 1 million copies of a single record. He was also one of the very few artists who played at the Cotton Club, which is a white-only club in Harlem, which speaks to the racial segregation at the time, but using black artists as entertainment. During this time, gospel quartets were also becoming really popular, such as the Heavenly Gospel Singers, the Five Blind Boys of Mississippi, and the Five Blind Boys of Alabama. They helped spread this new musical style through live performances and radio broadcasts. However, Precious Lord, Take My Hand is written by Thomas A. Dorsey after the death of his child and his wife, and the Heavenly Gospel Singers are the first one to record this song, but it was popularized by Mahalia Jackson. But this diva right here, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, she's often referred to as the godmother of rock and roll because she took spiritual lyrics and an electric guitar and basically made a baby. But this song in particular really pushed spiritual music into the mainstream with the pop gospel route. And lastly, Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. The lyrics are pretty much drawn from a poem, but the lyrics are protesting against African Americans in America getting lynched. The lyrics are ultimately comparing fruit of trees to the victims. And the guy who wrote this song basically took the site of two